baby? Oh, baby? Oh, baby. Bonte's out today. He's not feeling well. B, you know I love you. Get better. We got Alan Stiles in. Joe Shasky. Good morning, in the words of Bonte. I don't want to rip his thing because he's so good at it. Good morning to the cable car drivers and the Muni drivers and Caltrans and the Muni people and the police officers and the firefighters and the sheriffs. And, he sometimes says the ladies of the night. Thank you to all the people working graveyard shifts and getting off, the water department workers, the producers at 95.7 The Game. Am I missing anyone, Alan?
If you are, the Xfinity mobile text line will let you know.
There we go.
But I think you're good.
Yeah, well, there the text line. Don't even start me with that. We got Niners Seahawks on Saturday, 1:30. I'm super excited. And we're going to talk Warriors in about 30 minutes because the Warriors play the Suns tonight. Steph Curry probable. You can listen to 95.7 The Game today at 5:30. JD's going to be doing the pregame show. Warriors and Suns, not the matchup I thought it would be, but that's okay. Neither here nor there. Hopefully Steph's available. This is the last game of a homestand. So if you're into the Warriors, we're going to be talking to Eddie Johnson, who does some of the TV and play-by-play for the Suns at 8:30. We'll find out a little more about them, and he's always a fun time. But I want to get into the 49ers right here, and I specifically want to get into Nick Bosa. Individual all-time great defensive seasons. Most people at the top of their head, they're going to go straight to a couple of people. Ronnie Lott had some unbelievable individual seasons. There was Deion Sanders winning Defensive Player of the Year. Dana Stubblefield won a Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, Alden Smith had a great sack number one year. I would argue he wasn't even the best or second or third best player on that defense. Great year. Not trying to take anything away from him. Patrick Willis had some phenomenal individual years. Charles Haley, phenomenal individual years. Obviously, Fred Warner's had some really nice individual seasons. I think this Nick Bosa season might be the best individual season defensively anyone has had since that Deion Sanders season.
Yeah, I mean, what he's doing, and we've seen, look, I know we're going to talk Warriors in a little bit. When you talk about defensive weapons, and everybody was upset about GP2 because of the way he changed the game, and we understand that it's not very often somebody on defense has to be a part of your game plan in a major way. And that is what Nick Bosa does. You have to find a way to double team. You have to find a way, as we say, death, taxes, and Nick Bosa was held, right? So you have to find a way to hold him without getting caught. You have to find a way to keep this guy away from ruining everything that you planned on doing.
Yes.
And you still, most of the time, fail at some point. The way he approaches the game, it's almost as if he's a boxer, right? He's not coming out the gate and trying to get all of his sacks. He understands he's got to wait it out. He's got to see how the game goes. Then at the end, after he's taken a couple body blows, he's going to get at you. So I think you're right on with what he's doing. It's hard to think about other defensive players and how they have just literally been, we always talk about who does the other team have to circle? And it's always on the offensive end.
Yep.
Right? And that's a guy that you might circle him, dare I say, before. You circle him and you circle Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
I found it very poetic that we celebrated J.J. Watt rightfully as one of the great players of his generation. And it felt like, and my dad referenced this, the passing of the torch to someone like Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald's getting up there in age. There are some great players in the league. I mean, Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett. I mean, he's not the only one.
Khalil Mack had a run.
He did. But it felt like Nick Bosa really put his stamp on his spot league-wide this year. I'm going to read off some of these numbers. I mean, these are incredible numbers. And before I read them off, 95.7 The Game, shop.com. has the coolest shirt right now, DPOY, but the Y is the silhouette of a player. I don't know who the player is, putting his hands up like a certain number 97 for the 49ers does. It is a phenomenal shirt. Go cop it right now. 95.7thegameshop.com. Check it out. Here's Nick Bosa's 2022. This is PFF's stats. Sacks, number one, by 2.5 sacks. 2.5 sacks. He had more than the number 2 guy in the NFL. Quarterback hits, number 1. He hit the quarterback more than anyone in the league. Pass rushing productivity, number 1. I don't really know how they quantify that one, but they have him
just
ranked
watch
as
him
number 1.
and then you'll know.
Penalties drawn, that's pretty obvious, number 1. Pass rush win rate. How many times do you win in a pass rush scenario? Number 2 overall. Pressures. How many pressures did you have this year? Number 2 overall. This is NFL league-wide. Tackles for loss, TFL. It's one of our favorite stats. Number 2 in the NFL. So people that want to say, oh, he doesn't stuff the run like this guy. I don't know. Looks like he does.
Yeah.
And when it comes to situational fourth quarter dominance, I could point to 4 or 5 different games from November all the way to the end of the year where I could say, yeah, Nick Bosa dominated the fourth quarter of that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the numbers. They say numbers never lie, but sometimes they don't tell the whole truth.
But people do.
But they definitely do. The numbers, they don't lie, and they tell a lot of the truth with Nick Bosa because he's at the top in every category that you just laid out. Everything that he does, and it's a good thing that you brought up the piece about the stopping for run, because when you think about players like Nick Bosa, that's the first thing you think about, sacking the quarterback, and you just assume that they're a bit one-dimensional, when in reality a guy like that isn't. So when you talk about a defense in the Niners defense that also is number one in the run, well, they're number one in the run, but Nick Bosa does this. He's part of that too.
Yep.
He's part of all that. So it just, what he is doing is almost unparalleled than what we've seen.
I'm going to say this, and I would love to hear from the audience, 888-957-9570. This is not to be sacrilegious. This is not to be hot takey. This is to be realistic. I hold Patrick Willis in the highest of high regards in terms of 49er draft pick who personified excellence from day one, class and professionalism, and in terms of how he was viewed around the league at his position versus others. He's the gold standard in terms of draft selections on the defensive side of the ball in, let's say, the last 20 years for the Niners. I think he's their best draft pick. 7 years, 7 Pro Bowls, 7 All-Pros, right? The 8th year, he had hurt his foot, ended up retiring early. To me, I hold him in like the utmost, highest regard in terms of what he did for this team. And the team that he came to was terrible, right? So he didn't just play on winners. Like, he was drafted to a terrible team. He was the leader of that team. He was everything. I hold him in the highest of high regards. Is Nick Bosa the better overall draft pick on that side of the ball? A case can be made. I'm not saying this lightly. I feel like he's not there yet because he's got to put together more years.
Yeah.
But in terms of bang for the buck and what he's done for this entire team, I think Nick Bosa's been a better draft pick. Look at what he's done on the opposite side of the ball. Eric Armstead had his best year with Nick Bosa on the opposite side of him. Dee Ford was awesome. Ebicam, season high or career high in sacks this year. All right, Drake Jackson's shown flashes. Then you look at the interior. Obviously, Buckner had a career year with him in the middle. Armstead, another great year in the middle this year. Look at what he's done for the linebackers in terms of freeing them up. Fred Warner's been amazing. Got a $50 million, guaranteed contract. Trey Greenlaw, we've seen the best of him. Look what he's done for the secondary. Sherman came here in his rookie year, had a great rejuvenation of the season, went to the All-Pro that year because of the pass rush. Look what happened with Hufanga this year. Gibson, career high. Jimmy Ward, career high in interceptions. A case can be made. He's the greatest draft pick on the defensive side of the ball in the last 20 years. I don't know if I'm alone in this. Where are you at?
No, and I do think that a lot remains to be seen, and you don't have to say it now, but you're on the right track. And look, we're about to get into Warriors a little bit later.
Yeah.
What's the word we use? Steph Curry probable tonight. You can listen to it at 95.7 The Game. Gravity. The gravity that Nick Bosa, Bosa, just creates for all these guys, that has been unmatched. And that has been something that when you look at the rest of the defense, you can say, this is a guy who affects the game, even when it doesn't seem like he's affecting the game, even when he didn't record one of your numbers for one of your stats. So I think that's the biggest part of it, the gravity that he pulls in and forces everybody to respect him in that way makes everybody better.
That's a really good way of putting it. He does. And also the fact that he's doing this after coming off the ACL injury is remarkable. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. And he had a little groin injury this year, but it felt like when he's on the field, he doesn't just do well or get a sack here and there. It's literally dominance. I'm watching dominance. Now, that's what I felt with Willis. That's why when I say this, it's not flippant. Like, Willis, to me, was a Hall of Famer from day one until the end. Like, that's what I saw. I saw one of the great players. Like, there was minor slippage when he had the turf toe and things like that. He was awesome. Nick Bosa, since day one, has been like all-pro level every snap.
Yeah.
I mean, like, have you ever seen, like, Nick just didn't have it in this game. There's quiet games where he doesn't get a sack, but he's still getting pressure.
Right, and obviously some of those games that could be against teams with better offensive lines. And again, that's the first guy that every offensive coordinator or whoever it is saying, we got to make sure that this guy doesn't beat us. So he's dealing with that every single game. He doesn't get any days off. It's the same idea. Somebody else, Eric Armstead, whoever, they could be on a roll of sacks. Doesn't really matter. It's always going to be Nick Bosa. And I think that probably what you're missing is Patrick Willis did have those moments in the postseason, and I know Bosa has had some. This is another huge in terms of,
he's the all-time playoff sack leader.
Well, I didn't know that.
Isn't that kind of, just for a second, let's just pause there.
Right.
He's the all-time 49er playoff sack leader right now. Mm-hmm. He's played in, I think, 6 games. They're 4-2 in the games. It's pretty incredible. Now, granted, they've been in more playoff scenarios than maybe, like Bryant Young didn't get the opportunities to play in those games.
Sure.
He's a great player. Charles Haley did.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got more playoff sacks than him. I paused on that like, damn. Right? I don't know.
Right.
They've also had leads. But isn't that kind of crazy?
No, it is crazy. And it's crazy that, again, that's why I think at this point in time, when you say something like you said in terms of the draft pick and who is the best the last 20 years, Bosa, he doesn't need anything because he's going everything like you just said. He's already the sack leader. Yes. But if you were to say, all right, if he can do this or if he gets that sack in the Super Bowl, something like that to catapult him, then
Aaron Donald's fourth quarter in the Super Bowl and his fourth quarter in the NFC Championship game.
That's what I'm saying.
Those are seminal moments for him as a player.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, exactly. And he's pointing to the ring on his finger. That's a good point. Bosa doesn't need anything, but I'm saying that
you're right, though.
to kind of catapult him and continue on this path that he's on, that would be nice.
Well, and again, I love J.J. Watt, but I'm watching J.J. Watt and I'm saying I actually feel bad for him that he played for the Texans and the Cardinals because he never had that moment. Lawrence Taylor had multiple rings and was able to showcase it in playoff runs year after year after year. And so not only does he have all the amazing regular season accolades, you also get that importance of being the centerpiece defensive player on a championship team.
Exactly. And when we talk about this word that we've been using with the defense in terms of historic, we've had different people on the night show. We've had different people, and I've asked them the same thing. How can this defense get that title?
Yeah.
And to be historic, most people have said, I think I asked Michael Irvin as well, most people have said...
That's a drop.
Yeah, a little bit. David Navarro. Most people have said, you have to be a part of history. And how do you become a part of history? Winning a Super Bowl. So if this defense wants to be historic, a lot of it does fall on Nick Bosa's broad shoulders. If he can wreck a game and make sure he is the reason or he is one of the reasons that they get this thing done... Then you enter a different stratosphere.
And that's why I think Dion, for a lot of people, even though he's only here 1 year, he goes catapulting to the top of most people's lists because they won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He was the defensive player of the year. And then you talk about a gravity. Look what he did for everyone else on that field.
Right.
I mean, he locked down an entire half of the field, and people weren't even looking in his direction. And when they did throw his way, he would pick it left and right.
Yeah, don't do that again.
Yeah, so you're 100% correct on this one. And I'm looking at Nick Bosa, and I'm saying to myself, he had such a brilliant year this year. I don't know if we could contextualize today how great the year was, but this is an all-time season defensively for a 49er.
It is, and that's why you want the Niners to make a deep run because you don't want it to be in vain. Like we talked about it earlier in the show. The window that they have, so many things that are on the line, and I get it. Brock Purdy is a rookie, and I get it. He's Mr. Irrelevant. We get all these things, but you're rolling right now.
Well,
and I love Guy Fieri. Shout out Flavortown.
Yeah.
When the recipe is right, you got to make sure you cash in. You got to make sure you eat it up.
Well, and I think as you look at J.J. Watt, he's retiring at 33, I believe. Mm-hmm. All-time career. I mean, Aaron Donald might retire young as well. Young, relative.
Right.
When you're making the amount of money that these guys are making, I don't know how many guys are going to stay in the league the way Bruce Smith did to go get 200 sacks.
Great point.
And especially the defensive side of the ball. We know more about injuries and the heads and all that stuff when it comes to concussions and the brain. We know more that they're making more money now than they ever have, and their investments are much better now than they were in years past. Mm-hmm. How many guys have the desire to want to play long periods of time? This might be the window with Nick Bosa. Maybe he drops off. Maybe he stays in place till he's 36 or 37, right? But Charles Haley, when he came back to the Niners, wasn't the same Charles Haley, right?
No.
You get these windows of excellence, to your point, and I just want them to cash in while he's this player, because I look at defense as a whole, as we zoom out. Is he the best defensive player left in the playoffs?
Off the top of my head, I mean, the easy answer is if he's going to be Depoy, then how could the answer be no?
I mean, I know Michael Parsons is having a great year,
right?
And he's been really good, so I don't want to dismiss him. Chris Jones is a battle-tested playoff champion, right? Chris Jones, for people who don't sleep on him. Fletcher Cox, Hall of Famer, had an unbelievable career. I don't know if he's the best of his, like right now he's probably slowly ticking down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away from him. This is the best of Bosa, and he's in his prime. They've got to cash this in.
You have to. You have to. You would really, really like to in that way, because you look at the other team that they're going to go up against. I mean, there is no. I know the Eagles have a really good defense, but they're not. The Niners, what they're doing right now, DeMeco Ryans, the personnel that they have. This could be DeMeco Ryans' swan song for the Niners as the DC.
That's a good point.
You want to go out in the blaze of glory, and I think that that's what's fueling them, if you will. And you know what? You could make the argument that these last couple games might actually be good for the Niners because they haven't played great defensively.
I'm with you there.
You know, you came out of this with the W in Vegas. You know, the Cardinals, you had really just the blown, not even blown coverage because Lenore was there. AJ Green just kind of mossed him a little bit. Some people think offensive PI, but this could be a situation where, all right, we've kind of been slipping a little bit. We already had taken the division. Let's level back up.
And to your point about the window, I want to reemphasize, it's not just Bosa. Fred Warner, linebacker, is equivalent in terms of taking body blows to running back. Those windows aren't very big.
No.
You know, Ray Lewis at the end of his career was not the same player that he was in the meat of it, you know? And Luke Kuechly retired young, who had a lot of concussions. We've been very lucky. Fred Warner has been an Iron Man. But as we saw with Willis and Bowman, to think that you could play that well into year 9, 10, 11, it's just really hard.
Yeah, and maybe that's part of the reason. Look, the Legion of Boom didn't last as long as we thought, maybe because it was the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Chancellor, one of the hardest hitters in the league, destroyed his neck and was never the same. You know, that's a great point. I feel like this is their sweet spot, and it's so much pressure on them to win this weekend and to take advantage of it. But at the same time, I'm trying to caution myself. I'm like, but it's a rookie.
Yeah.
It's a 7th round rookie.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I know he's not playing like that, but he's still a rookie. And there's a lot of new things that are going to be presented to him. And there's also a lot of young players who are unproven that are asked to do a lot. Like right now, Diamond Laura, he's on an island. Whether they play, you know, the New York Giants or Minnesota in the 2nd round, like this weekend is a test in itself. What if you got Justin Jefferson next week? You don't think they're going to try to line him up with that?
They're of course they're going to try to line him up with that.
You don't think AJ Brown? Like, so I'm looking at all these things, and I'm not trying to sound like a defeatist. I'm saying that, like, there are other young players on this team who are going to have to step up because you have these superstars who are in their prime. Some of these young guys have to make just enough plays to offset whatever their learning curve is.
What do you think about, and I'm going to read some of these off here.
Yeah, give it to me.
Brock Purdy. What do you think about, and I see you 650 on the Infinity Mobile text line. I never said I don't like Brock Purdy. 650 thinks I don't like Brock Purdy ever since last week when I was on with Whitey and I said, you know, he doesn't seem to throw to his right too much. 650 thinks I hate him. I don't hate Brock Purdy, all right? Why do we have to give him the gold jacket now, though?
Well, I think one thing that I'm with you on that. We go way too quick to crown someone. Justin Herbert. We've talked about this in this studio. Everyone was like, I'll take Herbert over Mahomes. What? Like, come on. Like, and I like Herbert a lot. We all like Herbert. Like, pump the brakes a little. Part of being one of the all-time greats or even just a great player is not just the singular year you have. This is what Jordan Poole's learning in the NBA. You got to build on one season and do it again the next year and do it again the year after that. That's what makes a truly great player. Dre Greenlaw is becoming a truly great player because he's now had multiple great seasons back to back.
Yeah, and I've said this, we'll get into it a little bit more when we start talking Warriors, but sophomore slump is almost a relative term.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be your second year in the league. It's your second year being on people's radars.
Good call.
So Brock Purdy, to me, there's no book out on him yet. We don't know what that book would be to Baldy's point, but when you look at what Brock Purdy has done, he broke the 49ers rookie record for touchdown passes.
That's crazy.
First QB in Niners history to win his first career 5 starts. His jersey is actually in the Hall of Fame for doing that. So his jersey's already in the Hall of Fame. Brock Purdy's in.
But didn't Jimmy win his first 5 starts as well?
Career starts, though.
Career. Because he had the 2 starts in New England. I thought you
career
meant
starts.
49er. Keep going.
Career starts.
My bad.
Second rookie all-time with at least 2 touchdown passes in 6 straight games.
Wow.
And most wins as a rookie in Niners history. All that being said, how do you take those ridiculous accolades, do you roll that? Are we doing AT&T minutes? Are you rolling that over into the playoffs, or is it just brand new?
I have unlimited minutes, so I haven't rolled over anything in years.
Grandfathered in, I see.
Yeah, Verizon.
Wow.
Shout out. And my $8 gazillion phone bill. I just feel like the playoffs is a whole nother beast and a whole nother test. It's totally irrelevant. It's like, in any sport, all your regular season stats wipe away. We see A-Rod, Barry Bonds in baseball. They just couldn't do it in the playoffs, and then eventually they would have moments. We see Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a different player in the playoffs. He doesn't look as comfortable. Brett Favre, historically. Peyton Manning, historically. Bad playoff performers relative to how great they were during the regular season.
Right.
I don't know. And that's the thing. Until we see it, like, how can anyone have a good feel for it? I do think there's some things that translate really well. How do you quantify pressure? How do you quantify the hard-hitting nature of the first quarter of a playoff game? We're going to do this. Everyone's going to do this over the weekend. They're going to watch one quarter of whatever playoff game is first. Is our game first? I think the Niner game is first, yeah. And they're going to go, wow, the playoffs, they hit hard. We do this in the NHL. We do this in every sport. Wow, the level of speed is through the roof because they know there's no game tomorrow. There's no game next week. So I don't know. It might take him a while to settle in. Does he settle in too late? Could they be in a position to where they can minimize his exposure in terms of throwing from behind? That's what I would like them to do. Get a lead, which is kind of their blueprint. Run the ball down the throat. Open up the play action. So there's not so much on his table.
Yeah, I am curious to see. And Baldy talked about the weather and how it shouldn't change too much. But I am curious to see, you have a rookie QB, albeit he's been playing well. You have a rookie QB, and you're probably going to have bad weather. And it's a divisional opponent that you're facing now for the third time.
Even if I said, let's take rookie out of it. Okay, if I said take the word rookie out, it's his first playoff game.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, even if I said, because I think Geno Smith, this is his first start in a playoff game. I know he's been a backup for multiple ones. This is his first start in a playoff game. Can't you, at the bare minimum, be like, yeah, we got to kind of see it first. Forget rookie, just first playoff start.
Yeah, and you would like to think that Geno would have more confidence in Brock Purdy, but the way Brock's been playing, I don't know if that's true, number one. And number two, think about how they got into the playoffs.
Yes.
The Seahawks needed help.
Yes.
They needed the Lions to do their thing. The Niners have been rolling. So I think that is all a part of it, but I do feel that you look at Lamar Jackson, you look at some of these guys, their first playoff games, and they've looked a bit shaky in a way.
Very shaky.
So luckily he gets to go up against another first-timer in Geno Smith, but let's not be surprised if there's not an interception in the first quarter.
Well, I mean, I look at just across the NFC. Jalen Hurts has only been in the one playoff game last year.
And they got blasted.
Yeah, but it was a good experience for him.
Exactly.
And I would also say that I give Jalen Hurts the benefit of the doubt because he's played in so many big-time college football games.
Yeah.
Some people will scoff at that, but, like, he has been in a lot of...
The same people that are scoffing at it are running around saying, Brock Purdy was a starter for 4 years in Iowa State.
That's my point. And Brock gets credit for that. He was in bowl games. So, like, those are big-time games for his program. But I just look around, and, like, Tom Brady, obviously, he's 20 years of being in the playoffs. He's well-decorated. The New York Giants, Daniel Jones, his first playoff start. Dak Prescott's been to the playoffs a lot. What's Dak done in the playoffs?
Don't get me started on Dak. I think Dak is so overrated.
Fine, but you at least grant me this, like, he hasn't been as good in the playoffs as he's been during the regular season.
No, well, that's part of the reason I think he's overrated. So there's Dak, Daniel Jones, whatever. Tom Brady is the guy, and now we have to do this thanks to Aaron Rodgers losing. Now Tom Brady has to be the sleeper that everyone has to worry about now, even though I don't know.
Alan, if I told you that Tom Brady beats the Cowboys and then beats Philadelphia, you would not be surprised.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I would want to be, but I wouldn't.
The vampire is coming for them. All right, I call him the vampire because he's going to live forever.
He's just been waiting in the wings.
He also kind of looks like one now.
Well, and he's clearly sucking on children's blood. That's what's keeping him so young and so fresh, right? Like, I mean, there's something. Like, God,
Botox,
I love you,
sure.
Tom. I know you're a Bay Area guy. What are you doing? Like, what? How do you look younger now than ever? I am losing hair left and right.
It's the TB12 method, Joe. You want the book? I can get it for a late Christmas gift.
He's on some Benjamin Button type stuff.
It's the avocado ice cream. That's the secret.
It's not the avocado ice cream.
Still really good, though.
Come on. You guys are killing me.
Yeah.
Don't knock until you try it.
I know. All right.